Welcome to Warfront Intel. Here we explore weapons and strategy through fictional military scenarios. None of the events or personnel are real. Sit back, enjoy the story, and stay tuned for a quick summary of the weapons featured. The Persian Gulf lay deceptively calm. The water glistened under the rising sun. Tankers traced their usual lanes, and U.S. reconnaissance aircraft patrolled as they had countless times before. But calm in these waters can shatter in an instant. Out of the Iranian coastline, fire streaked skyward. A sudden storm of surface-to-air missiles, propelled by columns of flame, cut through the sky at supersonic speed. Their target, a U.S. Navy P-8A Poseidon, a maritime patrol aircraft designed for anti-submarine warfare and surveillance. The Poseidon was not an armed bomber, not a stealth fighter, but a reconnaissance sentinel flying over international waters in the Gulf of Oman. Yet that morning, it became the bullseye of Tehran's fury. Inside the cockpit, alarms shrieked as shrapnel tore into the fuselage. One missile detonated close to the port side of the tail, scattering razor-sharp steel fragments into the aircraft's skin. Warning lights lit up like fireworks. Hydraulic lines severed. Gauges spun wildly. And the plane lurched with violent turbulence. One of the American pilots, hit by shrapnel, fought to steady the crippled aircraft. Blood soaked his flight suit, dripping onto the controls.
Mayday,
For a moment, survival
down.
seemed impossible. The smell of burning insulation filled the cockpit, mixing with metallic tang from his own blood. His training screamed through his pain: keep the wings level, reduce speed, aim for controlled descent. Each second stretched into an eternity. He wondered if this was how his story would end, not in the glory of combat, but in the helpless fall of a patrol jet. Yet sheer determination and drilled muscle memory kept the Poseidon in the sky. Back in Washington, word of the incident flashed through secure networks. Pentagon screens lit up with alerts. Analysts rushed to confirm whether the Poseidon had been destroyed. When confirmation came that the crew had managed an emergency landing in the UAE, the relief was overshadowed by rage. Within hours, a cold, calculated response was prepared. On the steel deck of the USS Gerald R, the Navy's most advanced aircraft carrier, ground crews readied America's sharpest blade, the F-15EX Eagle II. The F-15EX was not just another fighter. It was the latest evolution of the legendary Eagle, an aircraft that had never lost a single air-to-air battle in more than 40 years of service. With twin GE F-110 to 129 engines producing nearly 58,000 pounds of thrust, the Eagle II could climb at blistering rates, sustain Mach 2.5 speeds, and haul almost 30,000 pounds of munitions more than any other U.S. fighter. Beneath its wings hung two sleek, deadly AASM Hammer bombs, French-designed modular weapons equipped with inertial navigation, encrypted GPS, and rocket boosters to extend range. They turned ordinary dumb bombs into precision killers with strike accuracy measured in meters. The F-15EX wasn't just a warplane. It was a message in metal. At 5:46 a.m., the P-8 Poseidon had been performing its usual duties, scanning shipping lanes, tracking radar anomalies, and maintaining America's watch over one of the world's busiest waterways. The flight was standard, calm, and utterly non-provocative. But Iran's military had other intentions. Operators of the Bavar-373, Iran's domestically built air defense system modeled after Russia's S-300, decided to act. A salvo of missiles launched without warning. One missile's proximity detonation shredded the Poseidon's tail. The crew fought desperately, alarms screaming in their ears. The jet staggered through the sky, metal grinding against metal, as the wounded plane descended toward an emergency landing at a forward airbase in the UAE. Medics pulled a bloodied pilot from the cockpit. He was alive barely, and with that image, a line was crossed. The attack was not ambiguous. This was not a misfire, nor a warning shot. Iran had deliberately wounded an American aviator. That afternoon, President Trump stood before the National Security Council. His words were sharp, unambiguous. Strike an American pilot, and you strike at the heart of this nation. And when you do, America strikes back harder than you can imagine. Intelligence confirmed the attack had been ordered at the highest levels in Tehran. There was no rogue commander to blame, no deniability. This was an intentional escalation. Inside Washington's war rooms, debate quickly dissolved into resolve. The question was not whether America would retaliate, but how. The Pentagon had options. B-2 bombers could have soared from Diego Garcia. Tomahawk missiles could have been fired anonymously from submarines. But those were old tools, faceless, detached. This time, the United States needed a message. A strike so precise, so personal, that Tehran's leadership would feel it in their bones. The target was chosen. The Ministry of Intelligence and Security headquarters in Tehran, the heart of Iran's covert operations against the West. The building had orchestrated sabotage campaigns, cyber attacks, and clandestine strikes for decades. Now it would become ground zero for retribution. And the weapon of choice, the F-15EX Eagle II, on the deck of the Gerald Ford, technicians armed the jet. They loaded the AASM Hammer bombs, integrating their French guidance systems with American GPS encryption. These weren't just bombs, they were scalpel-like instruments designed to survive jamming, evade intercepts, and obliterate hardened structures. The pilot strapped in, helmet sealed, mission brief echoing in his mind. Penetrate Iran's air defenses, deliver 2 precision hammers, and escape alive. This was no faceless barrage. This was a man flying into the jaws of Tehran's air defenses to personally deliver vengeance. Before dawn, the F-15EX launched, its engines howling across the Gulf. The fighter hugged the surface, slicing through the air at just 50 meters, altitude dangerously low, but essential to avoid radar. Inside the cockpit, the pilot's grip was iron. Telephone poles whipped past. Wheat fields bent beneath jet wash. The horizon blurred into streaks of gray. Every breath was a gamble. Every second, a razor's edge between survival and annihilation. He could feel his heart pounding through the G-suit, each thump echoing against the roar of his engines. Radar coverage at such low altitude was mercifully short, about 25 kilometers. But survival came at a price. Terrain hazards, power lines, towers, and cell masts appeared without warning, forcing split-second evasive maneuvers. At one moment, a set of power lines loomed like a spider's web of death. The pilot yanked the stick down hard, his stomach lurching as the jet dove beneath the wires by mere feet. He had no time to celebrate survival. The next obstacle was already rushing toward him. The fighter wove unpredictably, jinking left and right to foil infrared and optical trackers. Sweat stung the pilot's eyes as his instruments flashed intermittent radar pings. Somewhere out there, Iranian S-300 and Bavar-373 crews searched for him. He imagined operators hunched over screens, fingers hovering over launch keys, waiting for a fleeting radar return to turn him into a ball of fire. Every shadow looked like a launcher. Every hill seemed to hide an ambush. At 22 kilometers from Tehran, the ground flattened. Stealth would no longer be enough. To strike his target, the pilot would have to climb, exposing himself to every missile battery within range. He knew this was the most dangerous part of the mission, the moment where he would go from ghost to glaring target. Yet he felt a strange calm. This was what he had trained for. At 6:17 a.m., the Eagle began its ascent. The nose tilted skyward, climbing at a steep 45-degree angle. G-forces crushed the pilot into his seat as the altimeter spun upward. 1,000 meters, 2,000, 3,500. Iranian radars lit up. The Bavar-373 issued firing orders. Hidden launchers snapped open. White interceptor missiles roared skyward. To the east, an S-300 battery locked on, launching 48 N-6 missiles, accelerating to Mach 6 hypersonic death racing toward the Eagle. But the climb was calculated. At 5,000 meters, targeting diamonds flashed green. The pilot released his bombs. The AASM Hammers dropped free, igniting rocket boosters. They accelerated along shallow arcs, their computers recalculating paths dozens of times per second, immune to radar confusion and electronic jamming. With his payload gone, the pilot executed a brutal split S, rolling inverted and plunging earthward. The maneuver traded altitude for speed, pulling the Eagle out of missile lock and back into low-level sanctuary. Iranian gunners scrambled. Anti-aircraft tracers clawed at the sky. Shoulder-fired missiles streaked upward, but the Eagle's electronic countermeasures dazzled their seekers. An Eagle missile veered wide, detonating harmlessly over a soccer field. The bombs continued their silent march. Their dual-guidance inertial navigation, fused with encrypted GPS, shrugged off every electronic warfare attempt. The S-300's massive interceptors detonated hundreds of meters away, confused by the bomb's tiny radar signatures. At 6:18, Tehran's fate was sealed. The first AASM Hammer tore through the ministry's roof. Its shaped charge warhead detonated milliseconds later, unleashing a molten jet of copper that sliced through steel and concrete. The second struck 20 meters away, delaying its detonation to burrow deeper before erupting. The building convulsed. Internal supports snapped. Floors collapsed onto each other in a catastrophic progressive collapse. Within 5 seconds, a 5-story symbol of Iranian power disintegrated into a smoking pile of rubble. Dust choked the air, flames licked upward, and glass rained across the streets. Civilians fled in panic. Emergency sirens wailed. Across the city, the skyline bore a new scar. Above, American drones captured every frame. In Washington, Pentagon analysts watched secondary explosions ripple through the wreckage, fuel cells and servers igniting. The strike was not faceless. It was deliberate, personal. A single American pilot, flying the most advanced fighter in U.S. history, had pierced the heart of Tehran. Iran's intelligence archives, rosters, and years of operations lay buried beneath twisted rebar and ash. Survivors clawed through ruins for weeks, desperate to salvage fragments. But the damage was done. The blow was more than physical. It was psychological. By striking an American aviator, Tehran had invited devastation into its most sacred halls. And America delivered. Back aboard the Gerald R. Ford, deck crews guided the returning Eagle into its shelter. Dust-streaked but intact, it was a silent testament to American resolve. The pilot removed his helmet calmly. He had completed a mission that would echo for decades in military annals. The world had witnessed something new. Precision, speed, and ruthless will fused into one machine and one man. Allies took note. Adversaries trembled. The United States had proven it could reach into the heart of its enemies with terrifying accuracy. And in Tehran, leaders awoke to a new reality. No fortress was too sacred, no headquarters too protected. Even the very ministries that plotted in secrecy were vulnerable to America's steel. Diplomats scrambled. Russia condemned the attack. China issued cautious statements. And NATO allies whispered in private briefings that the United States had just redrawn the lines of modern warfare. For Iran, the loss was more than structural. It was symbolic humiliation, a reminder that technology, training, and willpower could nullify even their proudest defenses. Now that the story has concluded, let's take a moment to step back from the fiction and highlight the real-world weapons featured in this video. Here's a quick overview of their capabilities: F-15EX Eagle II. The Eagle II is America's newest air superiority fighter, capable of carrying nearly 30,000 pounds of weapons, more than any other U.S. fighter. With a top speed exceeding Mach 2.5 and an advanced electronic warfare suite, it combines speed, firepower, and survivability, ensuring dominance in contested airspace. P-8A Poseidon. The Poseidon is the U.S. Navy's maritime patrol and reconnaissance aircraft. Built on the Boeing 737 platform, it specializes in anti-submarine warfare, surveillance, and tracking naval activity across vast distances. Equipped with advanced radar, sonobuoys, and torpedoes, it is the eyes and ears of the fleet. AASM Hammer. The Hammer is a French precision-guided bomb that transforms standard unguided munitions into advanced smart weapons. Using GPS and inertial navigation, with optional infrared or laser homing, it can strike targets over 50 kilometers away with remarkable accuracy, often within a few meters. Bavar-373. Iran's Bavar is a long-range air defense system inspired by the Russian S-300. It is designed to track up to 60 targets at once and engage multiple aircraft simultaneously. With claimed ranges of up to 200 kilometers, it is the backbone of Iran's modern air defense network. S-300 with 48 N-6 missiles. The Russian-made S-300, fielded by Iran and other nations, is one of the world's most formidable air defense systems. Its 48 N-6 missiles can reach speeds of Mach 6 and engage targets up to 200 kilometers away, making it a serious threat to aircraft and cruise missiles alike. 9K-38 Eagle. The Eagle, known to NATO as the SA-18 Grouse, is a shoulder-fired surface-to-air missile system. Designed to hit low-flying aircraft and helicopters, it uses infrared homing and can reach targets over 5 kilometers away. Compact, mobile, and deadly, it is a common sight in conflict zones worldwide. If you value clear, unfiltered stories like this, subscribe and give us a thumbs up. It helps us continue uncovering the truth behind the headlines.